Hey folks, Real Honesty with John Ritlin. I'm John Ritlin. This is part 8, the last part of my top 40 least favorite wrestlers series. And so far, I hope you guys have enjoyed this series. And I want to clarify, just here at the end, these are wrestlers I personally didn't enjoy. For one reason or another, or all the reasons. It's like just whatever. The whole point is that this is my list. Other people's lists will be a lot different. Some people's lists might include some of my favorite wrestlers. And that's fine. We all have our different opinions. We all dislike people all we want. And look, I obviously don't know any of these people. I've never met any wrestlers. So I'm not going to say here like I totally know, but these are people in the top 3 of ones I never cared for. Now again, you have to have been competing in the ring, wrestling in the ring, for a number of matches. There are some that aren't very good, and, here are the top 3. And a lot of you won't be surprised by the top 3. And any of you that have followed me on Twitter, my Twitter handle will be in the description, by the way. A lot of you, and if you follow this channel, you will not be surprised by my top 3. So, excuse me, without any further ado. Number 3, Sable. The worst, absolute fucking worst woman that they've ever pushed in WWE. Worse than Eva Marie, worse than anybody like Velvet Sky was worse, and not worse in Impact Wrestling, because at least Velvet Sky tried. Any other woman. I don't care who you are. Kelly's way further down. Kelly looks like goddamn Trish Stratus next to Sable. Because Sable didn't want to take bumps. She didn't want to do anything like that. Now, I'm not talking about Sable post-WWE. Her and Brock seem happy together. They have 2 children. That's great. Sable's in-ring career, though. Her time on the mic. Her appearances. First off, I thought Sable was hideous. I never thought she was attractive at all. If you guys think she's attractive, that's great. That's fine. Cool. I'm not going to say that you guys are wrong. Because here's the deal, we all have different opinions of beauty and this kind of stuff. But I never understood why Sable was found attractive. I never did. She was horrible on the mic. She couldn't cut a goddamn promo. For whatever reason, she was seen as like this big ratings draw, which I never understood. Oh, Sable, she's out there doing stuff or whatever. Yay, let's tune in. It's not fucking wrestling. I mean, that's part of why. While the Attitude Era had some of the best, best talent, and really had some of the best talent and some of the best angles, some of the time that they had on there was shit. Any time the Sable was on TV was crap. She was a valet for Triple H, and then, her husband Mark Marrow came there, and great. Why? Nothing against Mark Marrow. I mean, I had him on the list, and I took him off the list because Mark Marrow's actually a good worker. And he's doing good stuff outside of wrestling, motivational speaking, so that's good for him. But just Sable lent nothing to Mark Marrow's character. And then Vince and McMahon and Russo I think is more guilty of this than Vince, even though it was Vince's company. I never got the fixation. Never got the fucking fixation with Sable. She couldn't cut a promo. She was god-awful. She didn't want to learn how to wrestle, but she wanted to be champion. She wanted to get on TV. I never saw her Playboy spread. I never did. I never wanted to. Either of them. I think she was in a couple editions, if I remember right. If I remember WWE promoting that right. Terrible. I mean, it's just like, who would want to see her naked? Seriously. Who? Paul New Day. Who? Who the fuck would want to see Sable naked? Sable was fucking ugly. And she was. I mean, if you guys like her, great. I mean, I'm just stating my opinion. I'm not any kind of decent looking guy at all. I admit that. I don't really care for how I look. But for somebody to be on TV and somebody that looked like garbage, looked like she would melt under some spotlights, I'm amazed that all that silicone did not melt off her body, and then she would have ended up weighing about probably, I'd say, 25 less pounds. Plastic surgery up the wazoo. She didn't want to wrestle. She took part in some of the worst matches ever. She couldn't wrestle. She couldn't work. Didn't want to take a bump. She's the worst women's champion ever. Because any other women's champion before her or after her at least tried to take bumps. I mean, but seriously, Why was Sable ever? See, and then Sable sued Vince in 99 and then came back to work in 2003, and that was even worse. She led to more of the worst TV. Her and Tori were having a little lesbian thing. Shit, what was this? I mean, the benefit of her coming back to WWE in 0304, for that 0304 run, was at least she got to meet Brock, and again, they seem happy together. And that's great. Sable as a wrestling character, though, was shit. She was horrible. All the money that she earned could have gone to people that were actually fucking talented. Like, if I heard right in the interview, she earned over $1 million for her, for her Playboy contract. What? Were there that many desperate, dumb fucks that wanted to see Sable naked? Seriously. You practically saw her naked on TV anyway, because that's all she could fucking do was show her damn tits and everything. That's all Sable could do. All she could do is go out there and parade in outfits and show off her silicone tits and all that, and basically just tramp it up. I mean, that's what she did. And I'm not saying that other women didn't, but at least other women had talent and cut a promo in the outfits they dressed in. Yeah, whatever, you might not have been able to take them seriously, but they loved the business. Terry Runnels loved the business. Sunny, even though I picked on Sunny before, Sunny at least loved the business and could cut a good promo. Others during that time loved the business. And Sable was the one they loved. It was shit. Sable, fucking garbage in the ring. Garbage in wrestling. Her and Brock are happy together? Great. But Sable is a fucking embarrassment to women's wrestling. To women in the wrestling business in general. Absolutely just flat out embarrassing. And the sad thing is she'll probably be in the WWE Hall of Fame at some point. For the ratings that she got in the Attitude Era. Because they'll run out of good people to put in, and they'll start having to put shit in like Sable. Now we move on to number 2. The Ultimate Warrior. First off, I feel bad for his wife, I feel bad for his kids, that they lost their dad. They knew him as, or the wife losing her husband, and the kids losing their dad. Because they knew him differently. He was homophobic. He was racist. He was shit in the ring. I mean, sure, he had that intensity, he had that charisma where you didn't understand what the fuck he said, but he seemed to believe it, and it seemed to work, and all that, and everything. Okay, great. I can't name one good match that Warrior had where he wasn't in the ring with a way better experienced worker. His match with Randy Savage at WrestleMania 7 was probably his finest match, as far as storyline and psychology and everything. In the SummerSlam 92 match certainly wasn't that bad, but Warrior couldn't work. He couldn't work at all. He'd run down to the ring. His entrance was great. His entrance would he'd run down or whatever and be all blown up, and then he'd beat guys in like a minute. Like he did to Triple H at WrestleMania 12. His WCW run was crap. His match with Hogan at WrestleMania 6, look, I mean, that was a titanic clash, and it was built well. And I give credit to both guys, but mainly Hogan. I'm going to give credit to Hogan there. Because Hogan did his best to carry Warrior. And Warrior did do some stuff, but he couldn't work. None of his offense looked good. He broke Bobby Heenan's neck at one point. Because Warrior was careless as fuck. He's nearly dropped people on their head a lot. Just seriously, what in the world was so... I just don't get it. Like with Warrior, it's like, oh, people make the thing about, oh, the Self-Destruction Ultimate Warrior, they made up for it by having him in the Hall of Fame. How do you know some of that stuff in the Self-Destruction Ultimate Warrior was wrong? Because it seems to add up with what a lot of people thought of Warrior. Now, I'm not saying Hogan's the greatest person in the world. I have a bit of a disdain for Hogan. And Warrior did too. I didn't believe his Hall of Fame speech for 1 minute. I didn't believe it. If him and WWE made up, that's great. It's like I have stayed away from this subject for over 3 years since his death. I have stayed away from it. I stayed away from it on the anniversaries of his death. I stayed away from it whenever people asked me to bring up anything about Warrior or give my opinion on Warrior. Try to take it easy. This is where I just cannot take it easy. Because the Ultimate Warrior was one of the worst, the fucking worst wrestlers that I've seen. And for him being a generally piece of shit human being, And being the racist, homophobic guy that he was, especially the homophobia part. I mean, was he the only homophobic wrestler? Oh, absolutely not. But just how open he was and just the way he acted about it, it's just, I just never got it. It's like just his motivational speeches just were not motivational to me. They were full of hate. I mean, granted, okay, I mean, you could say the stuff I'm spewing is full of hate, but I'm also just a wrestling fan. I'm just somebody that's very, very, very low on the totem pole. He's somebody who's way up there that still had a name and made his money in the business in the short runs that he had, and then still just crapped on quite a bit of wrestling. And I forget all the comments that he made, but he made a comment about Droz after Droz was paralyzed. And I remember just being disgusted by that. It's just disgusted by a lot of what Warrior said in his life. And, you know, you could say speaking ill of the dead all you damn well want. I don't care. Okay? I'm not saying I celebrated the guy dying, because I didn't. He was a husband, and he was a father. Okay? His family losing him, not a good thing. I did not shed a tear for his death, because I didn't feel anything. Was it shocking? Oh, absolutely. He was at the Hall of Fame. He was at Mania, appeared on stage, with all the Hall of Fame people. He did the speech on Raw, which seemed like a swan song, and then he was dead next day. Certainly was shocking. But I didn't care, because I almost thought it was a little fitting for all the hate that he spewed that his life ended just as suddenly as he had this, rebirth a little bit. If him and Vince made up, and if all that water was under the bridge, great. If him and Hogan made up and that kind of stuff, and all that water was under the bridge, great. And with a lot of people that were on the Self-Destruction Ultimate Warrior, and also people that had said stuff about him in the past. It's not like Warrior, but see, the problem is it almost felt like groveling with WWE. That they were groveling like, we're sorry for what we said, which was probably the fucking truth about him. That's what bothered me. Is that they backpedaled on it just because Warrior had the ability. He stood up to them probably because he didn't like the truth being said about him. Now, was all of it the truth? I don't know. I think that some of it was true, though. Because he did walk out on the company a few times. Now, 96, if he was more than his father, it's terrible. It's terrible he lost his father. Some of the time, holding Vince up for money, holding this or whatever, for how much of a hack he was in the ring, he probably didn't deserve to make half the money that he did. Now, he had a lot of merch, and he had a lot of sales, and a lot of people loved him. There are probably people watching this show that loved him. I'm not knocking anybody that's a fan of Warrior. Nobody. I'm not knocking anybody that's a fan of anybody that I mentioned in this series. If you're a fan of them, awesome. I always thought the Warrior's a piece of shit. And I will continue to think he's a piece of shit. And that I think the Warrior Award is a joke. If what Warrior did say, honoring people backstage and this kind of stuff, and people that made the show happen, I was all for that. Whether he believed it or not, I was all for it. But I think the Warrior Award's a joke. I think it's a joke. It's WWE doing more PR stuff saying, we champion all this stuff and we're a good-natured company, and yet we keep JBL and we keep other people like that. And we keep Kevin Dunn, who will be on a list of top 10 people I can't stand in wrestling. Because that will be a broader. It won't be just wrestlers. It might be some people I mentioned here, but it could be some backstage and some announcers and that kind of stuff. But I have great disdain for when I watch Warrior in the ring. Because I never felt like he got it and he wanted to get better. And for all the people that had to do unbelievable things to make him look better, it never seemed like he appreciated it, at least to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm misreading. Number one, and I'm ready for the hateful comments here. Number one, big shock, Lex Luger. Mainly why? Because I feel, whether he directly or indirectly did, the guy killed Miss Elizabeth. And did nothing. Didn't admit it in his goddamn book. Or didn't admit that Not even admitting he killed her. Didn't, painted Miss Elizabeth in a bad light. Because I read some excerpts from the book that people had sent me. And I've read some of the book. I mean, I didn't read all of it, but I read enough of it to get an idea that Lex, he's born again. He admits his wrongs. Well, no, he didn't. He didn't fucking admit his wrongs. The guy could have been, and should have been, better than he was. If he actually gave a shit about wrestling, then he would have been better. Flair, Steamboat, Sting, Pillman had a pretty good match with him. He didn't really have any. He had no more than a 3-star match in WWE. Because he just wasn't a good worker. He wasn't. He had the physique. He had, he certainly had a draw to him, and people watched him. But he was not a good babyface. He was a much better heel because he just didn't seem like he was genuine. And then you have his Twitter handle, Genuine Lex Luger. He never struck me as genuine. Never struck me as genuine at all, and I never got it with Luger. Even at 12 years old when he slammed Yokozuna, I didn't like it because I didn't believe it. I was like, oh, good. It's Lex. You're going to make another Hogan. When they should have chose Bret fucking Hart. But no, let's choose Luger. But his WCW run, his earlier WCW run, he's a pretty good performing heel because he was easy to dislike. But he got U.S. title runs. I think he's actually the longest reigning U.S. champion in NWA WCW history, which is scary to think about. He had a few reigns. I think it equaled over 1,000 days. He was a 2-time WCW world champion. At one point, I think held it for 7 months. He came back WCW after his WWE run. His feud with Yokozuna flamed out. Big shock. Because he didn't win the title at SummerSlam. He should have won the title at SummerSlam. And he didn't. And then, of course, his time in WCW, he came back as a shocking signee for the first ever edition of Nitro. And that was a good move by Bischoff and everybody else involved. Actually, I think it was just Bischoff and Lex and Sting to a degree. It was a great idea because it set the tone for Nitro. Luger he couldn't talk either. Just any of his promos, the guy was shit. He was shit when he was a heel commentator. He was shit when he cut a heel promo. He was worse when he cut a babyface promo because he just stumbled over all his words. And then, of course, there's that gif that you see on Twitter and that kind of stuff where he's trying to rip his shirt off and take his shirt off. And he keeps struggling with it. That sums up Lex Luger in the ring. He beat Hogan for the title in '97 to a big pop, and he got some big moments. But just then his teaming with Miss Elizabeth, because they were really in a relationship. And I mean, Lex was married at the time. I think Liz was engaged. I don't know. Don't quote me on all that. But they were together, and then it just anytime I watched Luger, I just wanted to punch him in the face. And it's sad because I love wrestling. I can appreciate what the wrestlers tried to do with him, but it's just for watching this guy. I mean, yes, he could put on some good performances, but it was always with people that were fucking leagues better on their worst day than Luger could be on his best day. Why? Why was this guy seen as such a big star? Oh, because he had a physique and he had all this and everything. The NWA wanted him to be, WCW wanted him to be the next Hulk Hogan. The thing is that people can pick on Hogan all they want. Hogan at least had charisma. It boiled down to mainly catchphrases, but Hogan had that energy and that drive, and he did have that love for wrestling. Luger never did. To me, he just never did. I just hated how he never had the love for it. And the fact that Miss Elizabeth death tainted what little bit of a legacy Lex had. Okay, did he kill her? I don't know. But I believe he's directly and indirectly responsible. And the fact that he's never copped to the fact that, what happened, Luger is a piece of shit. And if I had a chance to ask him a question without any tape devices, any recording devices, I would say, tell me as a fan, since I'm a fan of Miss Elizabeth, a woman that was infinitely better infinitely better and more influential in wrestling than you ever were. Did you kill her, Lex? Do you want to admit it? Or do you want to go to hell knowing that you killed somebody? Because that's where you're going, Lex. Born again or not. You did it. You know you did it. You didn't admit it. You never will admit it because you got away with it. And it's just sad that Miss Elizabeth's family had to suffer. Probably knowing that you did it. Even if you didn't directly put the pills in her hand or directly put drugs in her hand or whatever. Your guys' lifestyle together, you were toxic to her. You killed her. Now, Miss Elizabeth might have gone down that path with somebody else. I don't know. I'm not saying she was a perfect woman. But she should still be around to this day. And I'm always going to blame Lex Luger until I hear otherwise. So anyway, folks, thanks for watching this. I hope you enjoyed this list. Do you agree? Do you disagree with what I said? And by the way, let's make it clear. Let's just make the comments fun. Let's have some fun. List some people that you can't stand in wrestling. And list some people that you like in wrestling. Let me know show topics that you would like me to talk about as far as wrestling, as far as movies, as far as music, anything. And I'll suggest that. I'll take those suggestions under advisement. I'll even write down your YouTube name, or if you want me to use your Twitter handle, let me know. Anyway, folks, I will see you later. Like, share, comment, subscribe also. See you soon.